Empire does not ask for much, but in the end, they take everything.
Friends and lovers, welcome to the Jimpressions for Hand of Fate 2, the sequel, would you believe it, to Hand of Fate. Now, I liked Hand of Fate a lot. I reviewed it quite highly. It was a hybrid choose-your-own-adventure / card game with some combat in it as well. It was this odd, unique little hybrid, and it worked quite well. The only weak point was the combat, where they took you out of the card game, out of the idea of playing an adventure game at a table, and thrust you into, well, this, what you're looking at now, this sort of absolute bargain basement Arkham / Mordor style hack and slash combat system with you just bashing buttons mindlessly and then hitting a counter button when the corresponding prompt comes up. And that's the real big problem with Hand of Fate 2, is that's really not changed. In fact, I feel like I'm fighting in Hand of Fate 2 more than I was in the first Hand of Fate, which is a problem because it is the game's weakest element. Now, outside of that, this is more Hand of Fate, so that's good. Thumbs up there. It's still a lot of fun to play, this stuff notwithstanding. It's not like this is terrible. I've played far worse combat. It's just clearly such a weak link that it really should have been made into the game's game, the card game that is Hand of Fate. They've added some other things. There are new games of chance within the game, and I just don't know why they couldn't have utilised combat in the same way, come up with some combat dice, some combat cards, something like that. We see here for wagers, we've got some dice, using the stick to shake them about, and you can have one re-roll, and you beat the target. It's like White Wolf, just beat the target, simple enough. Not for me there. I fucking hate the dice. The dice are rarely on my side in this game, but they're fun to throw. They're just not fun to look at. Here we are with the combat again. This is actually quite a good mission, combat notwithstanding. As with the last one, the cards are arranged in a particular order, and you can select a deck of encounters from your own personal stockpile that you collect over the course of the game, and the person running the game, the page master, who serves as the storyteller and narrator, they have encounter cards that determine combat, such as this, and various story-based cards depending on the mission. So you're building your own deck, and already people wonder, like, oh my god, are they going to abuse the hell out of that with DLC? All self-contained. This is Netrunner to Battlefront's Magic the Gathering. At some point I'm going to have to talk about the potential differences with all of those things, because it is a debate that comes up often, the whole card game versus loot box thing. But we're here to talk about Hand of Fate 2. This particular mission was, instead of having all like the cards that arrange out in a pathway with multiple routes to choose, it's a huge grid of cards. They're all out there, just a big square for you. And you are navigating your way through, trying to avoid treacherous territory to collect 4 relics. You can see in the corner there, I've got 0 of 4 relics. 4 relics to collect all across this map. And this is where building your own deck comes in handy, because I had quite a few cards that revealed areas of the map. And that's the deck I built to go into this game with. We see here Lost Boy. That is a potential map revelation. I'm wearing the Frontier Barbet. I think I just got that. So I was too busy yammering on about whatever it was I was talking about. I forgot to even look at the goddamn screen. But there's a helmet that reveals the map. A watchtower that you can look at. You see the watchtower just noted there on the bottom of the cards. That lets you look in all directions, north, south, east, west. Horrible placement, I missed myself because it's at the bottom. But anyway, I like the fact that they've added more games. There's a pendulum you can see on the right there. That's often for stealth, sneaking about. The pendulum swings and you've got to hit the button at the right time when it hits a marker in order to pass a stealth check or what have you, some sort of guile style thing. And that's all good, but again, these extra mini games that have been built into the concept of this is all taking place on a table just further reinforces the weakness of the combat, which is, it's just an extra shame. The fact that it was already such a heavy criticism of the first game to see it relatively unchanged. It barely feels like they've improved the combat system, let alone done anything to make the combat part of the card system or part of the pendulum, part of the dice. It could have been done any number of ways without having to take us out of the atmosphere, out of the choose your own adventure and into this. I mean, fighting fantasy books have been around for decades. They're older than I am, if I recall correctly. Warlock of Firetop Mountain had that sussed already. You don't need to have some really mediocre hack and slash combat going on in order to simulate combat. But I wonder if perhaps they worried that it wouldn't be seen as video games enough if they didn't have something like this. It's just not, it's not a fun combat system. The characters' targeting is so off that they go in all sorts of weird directions when you're trying to hit something. And it's a shame because once we're transported out of that and we're back to this, and I'm making decisions and working on acquiring gold and managing my rations, because every move, of course, costs you food. When I'm managing all that, when I'm trying to unlock tokens by performing particularly well with certain cards and certain challenges, that's all fantastic. Everything here I really like. I'm absorbed by it. It's just when it forces me to go back into that combat system, I'm like, fuck you. I'm not interested. I'm really not interested. So these open wilds and things, they're open wilds and treacherous wilds are the things we're watching out for here. As you can see, I'm avoiding certain cards and taking long routes round ways because I don't want to go into those particular marked areas since they tend to deal damage. Fork in the road, reveal more map. That was why I put it in there. If you don't like deck building, the game does have a recommended deck that just auto builds for you, but it's crap. It's not good at all. When the game tells you that it'll suffice for now in the really early levels, they're not kidding around. Once I saw, see, combat could have been done by spinning the cards about any number of ways. But all of this is fine. It's all games of chance, and God, they can really annoy me, especially I hate the burning building card. To date, I've not unlocked the token for the burning building. It's too many of these, and it just gets harder the more you go. And eventually you're just kicked out on your ass, normally after taking a lot of damage, because if you've got my luck, you've landed on the pain cards a lot, so that's a shame. As you see, token's still up for grabs, and I've still got to go back into the building. Anyway, another new mechanic they have here is Fame. That's a new resource you can see at the bottom here. If you look at the bottom left, you've got your life, your health, your coin, 1 coin, terrible, and your fame. And fame is required to wield certain weapons, and it comes into play with certain of the story cards that come up. Your level of fame will determine whether you can pursue a certain dialogue path, do a certain thing. So it's just another little thing they've added in. Everything to do with the in-game tabletop game. Everything to do with that works really nicely. And I'll sound like a broken record, but it really does just come back to, it's a shame that something more stripped down than Dynasty Warriors is still being used as the spine of this. It's like it's holding this all up when it really shouldn't be. This stuff deserves better than that. It's a testament, I feel, That's why I am being as critical as I am, because I do like all of this. I mean, I don't like that. I don't like landing on the treacherous wilds and losing health, losing precious resources. Another reason why I liked this was because of the cartographer. Because if you unlock enough of the map for the cartographer, you'll unlock that token. And I thought, well, what better way to do it than this, where it's just a big square map, and I can reveal the map with all of these cards I've shuffled in, and then go to the cartographer afterwards and get a big gold reward for it. You see that hammer I'm wielding there as well? That's a result of having a high enough fame. Means I can wield that hammer. But anyway, the cartographer was good to use here because I got a huge payout for unveiling so many cards, when it's normally difficult to do that in the other ones, sort of the more standard levels, because there are a minimal number of cards that are arranged in sort of corridors, and you never know where the cartographer's going to show up. Here, you know he's going to show up on that board somewhere, so that was good for me. Anyway, dealing with this thing here. I mean, I think I've said all I need to say. I mean, I've captured a ridiculous amount of footage for this. Several entire running games that I completed. But I don't think I need to show you an entire campaign from start to finish. That's overkill for the amount of things I have to say about it, especially when I just keep coming back to the driving message of, it's basically as good as the first one.